Hello, Wolfgang.
Hi, Hilde.
Welcome.
Welcome too.
I'm very happy we are here together
Yeah,
today.
me too.
And I would like you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what's your background?
Okay. My name is Wolfgang Spitta. The long and short of what I do is I help people to have a better relationship with themselves and others. Professionally, my background is I'm a physician, I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm working as a therapist now since 35 years. I'm specialized in the area of constellation work and solution-focused therapy, which is good to put together.
You have specialized in symptom constellations. What do you mean by symptoms?
Well, as a physician, you can assume symptoms for me is what physical symptoms you have. And usually these physical symptoms are an information about yourself. The question is how to read it. And constellations are one of the possible means to understand them better, to kind of translate the symptom into what is it about, that you get a handle on it if you want to do something and take responsibility yourself to influence how you are.
If people would not deal with their symptoms, what would happen to them?
Well, my experience after all these years is life gives you a little information about things you should address. It's like showing you a little post-it and say, here is something you should look at. And your free will is to say, no, I don't want to. And the next step will be that life gives you a bigger piece of paper with a bigger font telling you it's still an open question you should address. And the next step in this process sometime is that you get a physical symptom, which is a functional symptom, meaning the body is okay. It's just giving you this information as a symptom, like I have some symptoms with my stomach, or I get difficulty breathing, or whatever. If you don't address this, then the next step will be that it becomes more intense. But the important part is the symptoms are directly related to the issue you should address. Unfortunately, in modern medicine, this connection between the organs and the symptoms on one hand and the psychological issue that is behind it is in some areas lost, like modern Western medicine, whereas in other areas like Indian and Chinese medicine, this connection is very known and used for therapy.
Are you only talking about physical symptoms, or are there other symptoms as well?
Well, the question is, how do you define symptom? You could say a symptom is anything that isn't as you want it to be. And you know, when you are heartbroken because you have lost someone, or when you are feeling exuberant and overflowing with love and joy, even in the wording you see there is always a connection between you and your body in a way. So emotions also show themselves as symptoms in the body. It's just the difference whether it's specific to an organ or whether it's an overall feeling like, oh, I feel so joyful all over me, or I'm feeling sad all over. So it's more the question of how specific is the connection to a certain organ.
Can you compare symptom constellations to family constellations?
Yes, in family constellation, the basic assumption is it is something that has to do with your family. And it has to do with persons. In symptom constellation, this also might be the case, and you find it out during the constellation. But the starting point is you, the organ that is affected, and the symptom that you have, to get into the specific questions that is posed by these symptoms. So it is sometimes something that is very veiled, that is sometimes not so easily to be found. For instance, if you have trauma that happened before your second or third year, you have not language available. If it's even before the first year, you even have no distinction between different emotions, but you have physiological reactions. So if you go into symptoms, you have the chance to go all the way back to times when you didn't have emotions or language available to understand what is happening. And then during the constellation, you can make this visible, and you can kind of translate this into emotions, and you can translate this into words that help you to understand why the symptoms comes.
How can people benefit from doing a symptom constellation?
Well, the first thing is I see many people who have symptoms and feel like I am here and there is my body with a symptom, which means I have cut myself off from the bonding with my body. An extreme example is people who go into burnout. You typically see that for a long time they have numbed themselves not to feel themselves until the breakdown happens. So we have a tendency to avoid feeling what we feel in order to make us something like a purely psychological being, but our body is still there. So the advantage is you get reconnection to your body, you get a better understanding how your body is in dialogue with you, and by that you can use this knowledge in the future to listen in a different way to what your body tries to tell you. And just the idea, maybe there is information in it for myself, from my own body, is a helpful attitude towards whatever comes up.
How does the body communicate with us?
Well, the body communicates in all kinds of ways. It can be pain, it can be a feeling of restriction, it can be a feeling of lightness and the ability to breathe and like my breast opens up. It can be something like I feel full of energy or I feel low energy. It feels like I have stamina or not. And it can be specific symptoms like, my elbow is acting up again, and then people explain it by, we're changing the weather, or I can't sleep. So the body has all kinds of ways to react. The problem is the understanding, not that the body doesn't talk to you, and that you stay sensitive to these things and not just want to get rid of them, but first try to understand what's the information in that.
What do the messages of the body refer to?
They can refer to a very broad area. For instance, if you look at issues with the lower bowel, that people have problems with obstipation or diarrhea or pain in the flatulence, this can be something that has to do with letting go of stuff. It also can have to do with feeling of shame. It can also have to do with feeling of guilt, because these are the areas this part, this organ is connected to. If you have issues with your heart, of course, everybody knows all songs about love, all poetry is about my heart. So, of course, the heart is connected to areas that have to do with relationships. And it can be my relationship to myself, it can be a love lost, it can be a lost sibling, so it can be a lot of things behind that. But insofar the symptom is an entrance door to try to find out what is causing this.
How come we don't understand the messages our body gives to us?
Because we have lost the knowledge. Interesting enough, if you look at kind of things like proverbs that people have, it's still there. Like, I feel like, in German there's the expression, I feel a louse has went over my liver, which is an expression for, I don't feel so good. And if you know, in Chinese medicine, the liver is the organ of joy and happiness. It connects directly. Or something that turns my stomach is, the stomach is the organ that's connected to your needs and whether you can feel them and express them. So in the ordinary proverbs of nearly all cultures, you have these sentences which directly refer to physical symptoms and their meaning, but has been lost over the time, especially in Western medicine, as if this isn't a very important information about what was always known in people about the connection between symptoms on the physical level and symptoms on the emotional level. So it's basically kind of an excavation of old knowledge that is still there, but isn't used enough.
What might change in people's lives after having done a constellation symptom? Symptom constellation.
Well, the advantage of doing symptom constellation is that it brings you in contact with the understanding my body is part of me and I am part of my body, and we can go into dialogue and we can go into an exchange, so that how I feel emotionally reflects on how my body feels, and also how my body feels gives me information about what might be important for me. You know, if you want to make decisions, it's a good idea to know, does it feel like, yeah, my breast gets wider, or does it feel like, oh, it's feeling restricted? And the more sensitive you are to that, the better you can differentiate about what is good for me and what is not good for me. And then you can follow this path and look where it leads you. It also brings you very much into the present moment, because you can't feel how your headache will be in 2 days' time. You can only feel, now I have a headache. So it is the advantage of bringing you back to the present, which gives you the energy here where you need it, and then you have it available to do whatever is necessary now to change what is going on or to influence what is going on.
So, Wolfgang, very soon you will come to Belgium.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
So am I. What would you say to invite people to take part in Symptom constellations? This is a question about the big why.
Well, people should ask themselves the why, like, why do I get these symptoms frequently? Or why do I get this disagreement between my body and me? Or why don't I understand? And they have to be interested in having a better understanding of themselves, and they should be interested in improving the dialogue between themselves and their body. And it's very helpful if you have a specific symptom that is persistent for a longer time to use this as an entrance door, for instance, by doing a constellation with the symptom and the affected organ, to feel it really bodily and emotionally what is going on in me. So it increases your understanding of yourself, and it gives you the hope I can influence how I feel, and I can use my body symptoms to find the best steps for my development, instead of letting other people tell you what is good for you. You know, if you look around, all marketing is living from telling you what is good you do. This is what you should drink. This is what you should eat. This is what you should wear. And it is grounded in you not being connected enough to say, I know what is good for me because I feel it in my body. And improving this connection is what this constellation will start as a process in you, or increase as a process in you.
So could we say that symptom constellations are about your inner marketing?
Yeah, and it makes you immune to be manipulated, which is an important part. Because you see, the less you are manipulated by other people, the more you are true to yourself, the more you can take the responsibility for yourself, and this makes you more autonomous and basically stronger.
And you will experience more freedom.
And in the end, you will experience more freedom.
So let's invite them to come to the symptom constellations.
Yes, if you're interested in that, that's the place to come to, sure.